training, digital learning solution, as well as coaching and monitoring services. We have partnered to make sure that we bring these webinars to you. Profile is also the regional distributor of Genos International Emotional Intelligence Assessments and Programs. It provides psychometric assessments, trainings, digital learning solutions, as well as coaching and mentoring services through our various providers. We deliver transformation through our assessments, which provide in-depth, objective, comprehensive, and reliable information about your people, far beyond what we can uncover through the normal human resource practices. Now, these two firms, Impact Leadership Academy and Profiles International East Africa, we are here to really share with you the knowledge that we have. Now, with Profile International and Impact Academy, we have Genos certified coaches that we work with to deliver our services. Today's webinar, we are going to really discuss a very important subject, how organizations can maximize the strengths of multi-generational workforce through mindful leadership. We'll be discussing quite a number of things, including the challenges, the opportunities, the benefits, and also what should leaders do more of to make sure that our multi-generational workforce are working well and delivering results. Now, as we are settling down, I would like to request our back office to run a poll so that we can talk about it when I introduce the speaker and the panelists for this particular webinar. I'm requesting all the people who have joined already to participate in this poll. Now, the first one is, please indicate which generation bracket your birth year falls into. You have only a single choice there. Just click when were you born. The poll is open. I'm inviting all the people who have joined our webinar to start the poll by responding to the question number 1. And the question number 2 also, you have, which of the following challenges of managing a multi-generational workforce are most prevalent in your organization? Select all that apply. Here again, you can do a single choice or you can add. Marvin, I don't see people participating in the poll.
Yeah, Mama Zul.
Okay. I'm welcoming everyone who has joined us to participate in this poll, as our discussion is going to really talk about the results of the poll, looking at our organizations in East Africa. Is there a system problem, Marvin?
No, everything is okay.
Okay. It's strange because we normally run polls and they go very fast. I don't know what is happening. I'm talking to the audience. Can you go to the chat and let us know whether you're having any problem to respond to the polls? Joan, you have responded. Okay, no problem. Calvin, Osiri. So people are responding to the poll. It's only that we are not able to see. Okay. Now, when you go to question number 3, it is, which top 3 approaches should your organization apply to maximize the strengths of multi-generational workforce. Select 3, or you can select more than 3. Which ones do you think will assist your organization to be able to implement communication protocols that support multiple channels, encourage cross-functional projects involving multi-generational teams, foster two-way mentoring programs? And the last poll question is, what should leaders do more of to maximize the strength of multi-generational workforce? Now you can select what applies given your experience. Okay, the poll question number 3, we are told, is not appearing. Number 3 is, which top 3 approaches should your organization apply to maximize the strength of multi-generational workforce? Okay. And then number 4, what should leaders do more of to maximize the strength of multi-generational workforce? Marvin? Yeah, the questions are not responding. Marvin, we have a problem.
On my end, I can see people replying to the post.
There are some people who are saying, can you repost the questions again? Is there a feature that you can repost? We have
Okay,
only...
let me relaunch the poll.
Okay, can you launch it again?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Dear audience, we are sorry for the technical glitch. Marvin is launching the poll again. Here we are. The first question, if you can go again, please indicate which generation bracket you are both here fall into. You have a single choice there. And then the second question, which of the following challenges of managing a multi-generational workforce are most prevalent in your organization? You can select the ones that apply. We're in question number 2. Question number 3, which top 3 approaches should your organization apply to maximize the strength of multi-generational workforce? Now you're thinking of your organizational context in this case. And the last question is speaking on the leadership. What should leaders do more of to maximize the strength of multi-generational workforce? You can select which ones apply to you. For those who had already submitted the first launch, you can do this. It's okay. Isn't it so, Marvin?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay,
They can feel it again.
Okay. So how many more seconds do we have for the poll to close?
20.
20 seconds. Audience, we
Yes.
have about 20 seconds. Kind complete and then just submit. And then we shall see the results, which will be our research for this evening, giving our key speaker opportunity to talk to us about her experience. Okay.
Yeah, I'm closing the poll.
We are waiting eagerly for the results. Very interesting results. In terms of multi-generational, I think we have 2 generations in this audience.
Gen X and millennial.
And when we look at which of the following challenges Communication styles across generations provide quite 33%. Yeah. Different priorities. Yeah. And then we have difference in working ethics and values, 17%. We have work-life balance expectation across generation, 50%. Oh my God. Then when we come to number 3, which of the top approaches should organization apply? Implement communication protocols, we have 67%. Encourage cross-functional projects, 83%. Then we have foster two-way mentoring programs, 33%. So here we are looking 3 of them, which are the highest, 67%, 83%, 67% have a tie on the organized intergenerational team building events, and then followed by introduce flexible work arrangements and hours. Then the last question is a very interesting question because 100% are saying listen attentively and respond effectively. Again, 100% are saying demonstrate authenticity in communication and action, walk the talk, followed by create meaningful connection with each generation, which is 83%. Very, very interesting poll. Thank you very much for participating in this poll. And I believe we have collected enough, research for the audience which is around here. Allow me now to make progress by introducing our key speaker today. We have Faukia Sherif. Is a highly accomplished HR executive with nearly 2 decades of extensive experience in human resource management, specializing in gender and youth development, renowned for her strategic and innovative approach. She adeptly translates business objectives into impactful HR initiatives that enhance performance, profitability, and employee engagement. Since December 2017, when I met Faukia, has served as a head of human resource at KCB Tanzania Limited, subsequently transitioning to BPR Bank Rwanda PLC, which is also under the KCB group, in the same position as head of HR. Her leadership has been pivotal in the growth and success of KCB Tanzania, which I can attest, subsidiary, where she has spearheaded numerous key HR initiatives that have propelled the bank to a tier 1 position within the industry. And that was achieved during her time with the KCB Tanzania. Faukia is a certified Genos emotional intelligence coach, holding master's degree in human resource management from the Open University of Tanzania and a bachelor's degree in mineral processing engineering from the University of Dar es Salaam College of Engineering. Her blend of technical knowledge and also her expertise positions her as a transformative leader in the field of human resource management. So allow me to welcome Faukia Sherif as our key speaker. Now, today we also have another coach who is also from Tanzania. His name is Anthony Jau. He's a seasoned professional in finance and legal, and is a faith-based emotional intelligence coach. He combines 8 years plus years of business expertise with Genos EI coaching to help individuals and organizations thrive and foster culture of empathetic leadership. Anthony brings a unique approach, integrating financial acumen, spiritual growth, and emotional intelligence, guiding clients to navigate complex challenges while developing their faith and EI awareness. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a team leader, or an individual seeking growth, he thrives in helping you align your professional goals and your values, enhance your emotional intelligence, and unlock your full potential in both personal and professional sphere. Through him, You have a trusted accountability partner committed to to cheerlead you in achieving your goals by building a long-term relationship based on confidence and trust, loyalty and discernment. Now, these two individuals, all the way from Tanzania, but one of them sitting in Rwanda, are here to take us through a very exciting discussion of this evening. Welcome, Faukia. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Madam Zura, for the thoughtful introduction. I couldn't do it better myself. And I must thank everybody for making the time to join us this evening. Please allow me to share my screen so we kickstart this session, very exciting and dear to my heart. Is it visible? Yeah.
I can see it, put it in there. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. In today's session, I have drawn a lot of my personal leadership experience towards the journey of maximizing the strength of multi-generational workforce through different organizations that I have worked with. As a head of human resources, I have a privilege to work with a lot of diverse, talented team cut across different generations, which bring different perspective on the table, which is valuable and unique to appreciate. As we proceed with our presentation today, we'll be unpacking on the unique contribution each generation is bringing, looking at the mindset and strategies needed to unlock the true potential of the multi-generational team, and talk about how leaders now can bring about the best in every generation, fostering that collaboration that goes beyond the age and experience. Because I feel like the segregation of the generation is one thing, but how do we now appreciate their age, experience, and what they bring on the table in terms of their perspective? Looking at the unique contribution of each generation, just coming from, currently we have 4 generations, rightly said, as the poll has displayed, but looking at the audience from the poll right now, we have Gen X and Millennium who have the highest number of joining. These are equally the large workforce we have at the workplace currently, normally in leadership or middle management positions, serve as a project lead or adaptable to solution. It is also very, very important to note that each generation has experienced distinct social, economic, but also culture shift that has shaped their experience and perspective in work style. So the appreciation of each one existence within the mix of our workforce is very important, and understanding their contribution, and then how best now do we maximize to take them to the next level for a shared goal, but success of organization. I was thinking today when I was preparing this presentation, and I felt like it will be important for me to share my stories, which many people that I meet are very curious about. How did I transit from being an engineer to head of HR? So in my personal leadership journey, transiting from an engineering mindset where data-driven decision-making process to human resource personnel, where it's people-centric, it is from one end to another. Trust me, now I'm looking at the value of human dynamic, collaboration, and adaptability with a diverse team that has different requirements. It involves not just changing how decisions are made, but also looking at how do we relate, how do we cross-functionally depend on each other, and then given that, what is our actually purpose within the organization, and how do we drive that shared goal? Early on, I had to cultivate a leadership approach that reflected on the complexity of managing multi-generational team, each with their own unique perspective and value. Honestly, I tell you, at the beginning of this transition, almost 2 decades ago, it wasn't easy. I had faced resistance to change from older generation known as the baby boomers and Gen X. For me, that was an older generation when I entered to the world of markets and to the corporate world, basically, who were more set in their ways of working and looking at me, huyu dada yuko hapa, who does she think she is? Anajua nini? How things are done around here. And then you had the younger generation, which I found more relatable, the millennium now, who are in that category with myself, who we were eager for change, resonate with emerging technological shifts and modern ways of working at workplace. This tension, while challenging, also became an opportunity for me to change as a leader. Instead of trying to impose one size fits all approach, well, I literally decided to take a mindful leadership approach in order to see things differently from their perspective, build meaningful relationship along the way based on trust with each generation, and then how do we strike a balance at best, and then showing up with a purpose and saying we're here to make one decision for the interests of the organization. It was and has been till now an intentional journey for me. It's a continuous, it's not a one-time event on this perspective. Keenly listening and understanding on the communication and understanding the style of how people want to be addressed on a different generational. Their priorities, value systems are also very important. For some will be ethical dilemma on certain things, but so for some, that's how they value things, given the experience and the culture shift they have gone through. What is important for them might not be important for everybody. So it's very key to balance the communication style and the approach for different multi-generation and find a way to bridge the gap between them, ultimately working towards a shared goal. But also, so now if I were to unpack these four generation of baby boomers, these are basically your typical excellent mentors and advisors in the organization, which are also exiting the workforce and exiting with rich in institutional knowledge. If you look at the Gen X, self-confidence driven and can serve as a project lead. These are your middle management and leadership currently at our workplace. Millennials are the largest generation that we have at our workplace cutting across, and it will be proven once I start unbreaking the population of Tanzanian context. Very agile millennium and are solution-oriented driven. They don't want blah, blah. They want what is it that is on the table and how do we now make it work, collaborate, purpose-driven. The Gen Z, the newly entrant to our workplace, they want quick win, digital first, entrepreneurial, and they're typical social conscious. It is important to recognize all these four generations and the contribution in the workplace. And if I were to unpack now, in terms of the population, I felt like it was very important to have the overview of our active workforce or population. If you look at the demographic distribution, of course, male, female, not very relevant here, but I'm looking at the age. It is very heavy bottom with 43% of the population age between 15 and below. These are not even near our workforce yet, and we're looking at they will be emerging in our workplace in the next 6 to 8 years, give and take. These are called Gen Alphas. They come with their own different contribution and perspective. And then if you look at the top end of the distribution, now we have the baby boomers and those who are no longer in the workplace, which contributes more like about 4%. Leaving the active population at 53%. 53% are your active population right now who are working. Either they are at a workplace, they are entrepreneurs or so forth, but we only have 53% looking at the demographics currently. So looking at the contribution, then now how do we navigate a different, diverse perspective? I think as leaders, it is very important to note that our workplace is evolving. Our business space a dynamic landscape. Success hinges hugely on leaders who can offer fresh perspective, innovative ideas while adaptively managing the complexity of multi-generational workforce. It is very important for leaders to regularly reflect and ask themselves how the difference between different generations can be harmonized through mindful leadership. And I will tell you, looking at the poll response, it was very interesting from the poll that the approaches which are most effective in maximizing strength of multi-generational workforce, many who have joined are saying communication protocols that enable use of multiple communication channels. this is the one thing they think this could be an effective approach for maximizing multi-generational strength. Another, they feel like cross-functional project carried out multiple generation in order for shared knowledge is very key. Another one, the third one was most interesting, was intergenerational team building events. There is a high need of intergenerational team building events to see how then cohesively we can come together as team. And then, because at the end of the day, when we are talking about leadership and multi-generational workforce, what are we looking at? We are looking at how successfully organization can have both these 4 generational and successfully meeting their shared goals and success in the markets. But also the lastly but not least, putting in place flexible working arrangement and hours. I think this has come very high in demand since COVID is heated, working remotely, flexible hours and so forth. No one feels like they need to put 9 hours to the employer, but they know they can put 3 hours, and 3 hours could be most effectively and do other things. So then how are we as an organization or leaders are flexible enough to adopt and still feel like someone does not have to sit on the chair to make sure that they're actually giving an output that you require. So we look at the output and not necessarily the time it takes and where they have given that. My own journey, well, I had to center this presentation through my journey of leadership and the transformative journey that I've gone. I am a certified Geno practitioner, and it is imperative for me to practice my mindful leadership, given that that is a skill that I own, but also coaching and mentoring others through that journey. And my core principle through this journey is basically empathy, awareness, authenticity, and balance. And how does that 4 core principle fall into places and perspective on how then I maximize the multi-generational workforce within my space? Looking at empathy really just allows me to connect with different team members beyond, let's say, banking to lifestyle on their personal level, and fostering a relationship that is built on trust, which is very key on a long term, and being open and being able to share, and that openness communication, because many of us preach is saying, my door is open, I have an open door policy. But literally, many leaders, we don't have, our doors are not open. You want someone to make an appointment, someone to really struggle for your attention. So how are you empathetic? How are you connecting? How are you understanding and going down to the level that they are and say, how do we come up together? And I bring you up together and really give them comfort in the shoulder. Awareness, for me, this is very key. Being aware of myself helps me manage emotional effectively and adapt to each generational unique challenges. Also enable me to tailor my leadership approach accordingly. If I'm talking to a Gen Z, I know how to address them, putting my communication, maybe probably not even have a conversation through the office, which are very serious, and go for a lunch or a coffee. But if I'm talking with millennium or a baby boomer, that would be a different setup approach. Authentic, walk the talk, as simple as that. You say you'll deliver, you made commitment, make sure you deliver. You say you are going to give feedback, make sure you give feedback. Feedback is either negative, critical, is still feedback, which needs to be given across. Finally, balance, creating an inclusive environment where all voices are heard and valued. Then this is my journey towards that mindful leadership. And now, how do now lead? I would say we basically lead with a heart and a mind. And when I think about mindful leadership, first thing that comes to mind saying, how can we lead with the heart and the mind, the logic and the emotion? How do we blend it together? And then this is very close to home where I work. I've been working here for almost 7 years, and one of our values in KCB is being courageous. It's courageous. Challenge the status quo, but how do you challenge that status quo? Is you let your head and your heart lead you in every conversation and discussion. Why? Because they need to be respectful. You need to be able to settle down and listen to different perspectives, regulate your emotion, and you don't let yourself generational biasness impact on everything that you do. So that is basically when I think about mindfulness. And then now, how do you lead with mindfulness? It's just being conscious. Mindfulness empower leaders to observe their thoughts, emotions, and surrounding with clarity, fostering, of course, a deeper understanding of themselves and others. Before you start understanding others is important, imperative to start understanding yourself before you understand others. Effectively meet each generation where they are and honor their unique journeys. Leaders can employ several strategies. But for me today, I would just want to highlight 4 strategies that if you cultivate them, it will help you nurture mindful leadership approach in your multi-generational team or the diversity team that you have across the organization. Cultivate self-awareness. Basically here you need to reflect on your own generational bias by self-regulation without judgment and emotions. Practice empathy. This one I have highlighted on my own personal journey. And I think active listening is one of the very key strategy that's to employ in terms of we want to build your empathy and understand the experience of each generation to appreciate and validate the experience, which fosters trust, collaboration. Leaders can build stronger and meaningful relationship on this if it's applied on a regular basis and you build on slowly. Adapt communication style. You have to be able to tell a message to resonate with a diverse group. Mindfulness help in delivering feedback and recognition to align with the preference and values of various generations, ensuring all feel heard. And this is how then we activate their strength because there's nothing like being appreciated. And when you're doing something right, it needs to be encouraged. When something is not right, it needs to be given appropriate feedback. Then we look at ways, then how do we actually come together and maximize that strength and uniqueness each one brings on the table. But build inclusivity, create a culture of shared learning, which is very important to mix the young and the old. There's shared learning there. We both appreciate their ways of working. Probably my way of working right now seems to be very long, but there will be a Gen Z who comes in and say, you know what, the same work you're doing 2 hours, I can do it in 1 hour, or I can do it in 30 minutes, and using different tools, which I've never heard of it. But still, I will only be able to appreciate that exchange if I'm able to listen. I'm able to engage at their level and make them and activate, unlock their potential and feeling free enough to come and tell me, or free enough to challenge me and say, this does not work that way, but it can work better this way. There is so many ways of reaching to the solution. Me being an engineering person, I know that. So mutual respect is very key. It doesn't matter in what category of generation you are in. Mutual respect is very key. The old respect the young, and the young respect the equal. It's a give and take. Respect. Initiatives such as mentorship program, intergenerational team building, which also seem like on the poll that we run, that is something that really is needed within our workforce. And cross-functional projects help generation understand the strength each brings to achieve the shared goals, because the knowledge sharing is an eye-opening if you are able to listen. If you're not listening to understand, you're listening to respond. That's where we then often leaders miss the big opportunity of how then we can maximize our workforce within that cut across within our space. The mindful leadership not only enhance team dynamic, but also drive organizational success. As we are ending, I would call all of you a moment of reflection wherever you are. With 4 generational cutting across our workforce, it is crucial for leaders to pause and reflect. How will you lead your team with heart and purpose? Because if you don't employ your heart and you don't have a purpose as a leader, you will fail to reflect, pause, and lead. For me, when I look at these three angle of reflection, pausing, and leading, for me, basically, reflection comes in on my leadership style and unique needs of each generation. So which one do I have to employ here and there? So I reflect on my leadership style and the unique needs of each generation. When I pause is to consider the impact of my decision and action on team dynamics. When I lead with intention. My journey has always been an intentional journey with a purpose, fostering an environment that values collaboration, respect, and inclusivity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Faukia, for the presentation that you have made today and sharing your extensive experience, which is quite interesting when I realize you are an engineer, but again, you were able to really evolve into the space of human resource management. And today we have Anthony with you, who you have prepared the webinar with him. I have a couple of questions, and I'm also inviting the audience to put your questions in the chat box. I will just pick them and make sure that I convey. I'm going to be your conveyor belt to Faukia and Anthony. So to start the discussion and for us to enrich it, your question, your comment will enable us to enrich this particular discussion. We are discussing multi-generational strength. We are discussing the issues of not having similar type of communication, even in our own household. You may find that you fail to understand your children. You fail to understand some of the actions that they do. And also they are looking at you, they say, but mom, you look like you are from analog technology. The world has moved on. So we have that, not only dynamics at the workplace, but today we are focusing on the workplace. Now, Faukia, I have one question before I go to Anthony. My first question is, you talked to us and you spoke about workplaces evolving. And workplaces evolving, you mean there are some changes that are happening. Are they very silent that we cannot sense them? Are they causing vibration? I don't know. I want you to talk to us about what key dynamics that are causing this kind of evolution.
I think, Mama Zura, will start on 2020 when nobody expected what has happened globally. And when COVID hit us all, we felt like, wow, we are doomed. As a bank, we would never think working remotely and still opened our offices. So I think so the workplace involvement has started from 2020 in silence, but now you see the impact and the demand is huge, saying that I don't have to be here 5 days a week. I can still do my job remotely. I can work. I got a job in Rwanda, for instance, in August, but I only joined here end of August, and I was working remotely. Things are happening. So the gap now comes in, Madam Zora, is our leaders ready to assure themselves that they will get work done even if someone is working remotely. So we are forced to change. And funny thing about change, when it comes with force. The resistance will be there for many to understand how this change look like, but eventually we are figuring out. I understand in another emerging market, I was talking to a colleague in South Africa, and they were told that now their offices are changing to be vibrant in the sense that you don't have a permanent desk. When you come, you find a desk which is there, then you work. But because they have promoted working from home setup. So these are the changes, but also, for example, if I look at the example of banking, we have this something called Meka Checker, which is a showstopper. Everything that we do, we are thinking of that. So we are not innovative. So we are pushed to be innovative, even if we are looking at the risk perspective and very high compliant environment, but still we must be innovative. The digital channel space is coming in, is changing the world of banking from traditional to modern. So these are the things that are coming, and I feel like more change is coming. When I'm saying evolving workplace is coming to reduce the human contact
Mhm.
and
Thank
more digital platforms related.
Okay, you have talked about the issues that have happened and people working from home. And then, of course, during the COVID, we had challenges where you have also multi-generational people working at home. Like you have a boss who is Gen X. He has already, big children. They are not in the house. And then you are working as a millennial. You are having children to drop to school, to take care of the house. Maybe you are living with in-laws. And how was that dynamics handled when you are talking about logic and emotions? Did you see some kind of tension, and how were you able to prepare the leaders to evolve and understand the situation?
I believe what works best is self-assessment, first of all, as a leader. What is your role? And that's why I said very important to lead with a heart and a purpose. If your purpose is intact, it's very clear to you what is your purpose. And then now you have your personal, but you're also equally your work, and you know where your commitment lies in both sides. Striking a balance between your family requirement on such a setup and then your work requirements, I will look at two aspects. What is your output and how long it takes to give that output? If you're honest yourself, you will have to find time to ensure that along the complexity within our space, either being extended family, demands of the children, demands of the husband, your maid, your support system not being there. In this complexity, how do we make it work? Both at leaders, and how then leaders lead by example, walk the talk, and show that in the multi-generational workforce, then how do we maximize those contemporary ways of working or contemporary ways of because, madam, the way I look at things, what is the output? So if you're committed, you must find that time to ensure that you reach your output no matter what. So then comes in, if you don't have a purpose, if your head is not in the right place, I don't think you'll be able to meet your obligation.
Okay, talking of the head and the brain and your mind being in the right place, I go to Anthony Njau now, because Anthony is a certified Genos practitioner, but also he has created a connection between spiritual growth, spirituality and emotional intelligence. And I want Anthony to talk to us about the work that you do with client, and how do you assist client to manage the multi-generational workforce, and using the concept of spiritual growth, spirituality, and emotional intelligence. Anthony?
Thank you, Mama. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
So the connection cut out for a second. So I'll just rephrase the question. So connecting, managing a multi-generational workforce from an EI perspective, but also from a spiritual growth or faith-based perspective, correct?
Yes.
Super. Well, actually, before I start, I would be amiss if I would not say that I am quite privileged to be sharing a platform with people with decades of experience. I think the little that I can share would be helpful and would impact the participants. And then to answer the question, all that we have discussed today has been centered on how leaders have to have a mindful leadership perspective, right? Where we're working within teams where, whether it's a family business or whether you're working in a structure where you have seniors that are baby boomers, or you're a team leader that has Gen Alphas or Gen Zs as your subordinates. it goes back to what Faukia was saying about understanding your purpose. So my personal journey and my passion, if you'll allow me to share, has been centered on my faith. And I love how this connects to the AI competencies because they're one and the same. Where when your mind is clear and it's centered, you're able to lead in a love way or a love perspective. So when you're having awareness, not only of yourself and how you value yourself and how you make decisions and how you see others, that helps you to become a better leader, right? So within the context of the multi-generational workforce, I can give a specific case study, right? Where part of the activities that I do are in a family business setting. And it has been very helpful, and I've been connecting the EI competencies and my faith work in understanding how to relate to my stakeholders, who include in a family business, my family, my parents. My family, you know, my dad specifically is a baby boomer. And there's ways in how he likes to communicate. He likes to make decisions. And how he communicates confidence in me, in how he would appreciate my approaching him in the decision-making process, that I've definitely have grown, one, by doing the general certification process, but also by growing or focusing on understanding spiritual growth. So one of the key takeaways, at least for me, has been that the burden is on me to be able to reflect, if I can borrow Faukia's phrase, to reflect, to pause, and to lead. I'm in the driving seat of that relationship as well.
So how do we make now, like we have the multi-generational and we have maybe the millennial,
yes.
we are having also the Gen Z in our workplace. How do we sort of like, in terms of values and purpose, you know, keep them on the driving seat and create that accountability? Because you said you are accountability partner to whoever you work with. How do we build it? How do we communicate to them so that they get it and they get the purpose, the value, and whatever? Where here explain that they're like quick win. They want to see it happening. The agility is there. How do we center that using the spirituality and emotional intelligence in tandem?
I mean, so there's a short answer and a long answer for that. So the long answer, I'd say, is that you, as part of accountability partnership or coaching, you can't change everything overnight. We can agree that there is a standard or a more excellent way in doing things. So when someone who is in their career progression and they're trying to make decisions on how they lead and how they impact other people, it all comes down to, are they aware of their impact? Are they aware of their work, essentially? So one example that I can give is for someone who has done an emotional intelligence assessment. One of the feedbacks that someone can get is that, so for example, someone is being too self-centered to lead a team. So the whole process starts where someone first has to take an assessment of how they are, or how they're performing, how they're showing up. And then, like I said, the long answer is that you can't change everything overnight. It's a very intentional decision. So exactly. So there's no quick win for that. It's a question of that some things, there's no hard or fast rule. There's no one size fits all, you know. But the minute that the awareness is there, then, and the decision and the commitment has been made to essentially grow in a specific area, that's when now an accountability partner and all of these things that we're understanding stop becoming just head knowledge. Because, like I said, there is a better way of doing things. There's an excellent way. But then if someone is not ready to accept it, or they're even not ready, and I can attest to this, you can come to know how you're showing up and not be ready to essentially unpack it. And that's okay, because as Faukia said also, it's a journey. It's not something that you just, do it overnight.
Okay, you have talked about it, and it is very interesting because Faukia talked about mindfulness, and she talked about balancing the logic and the emotion. And then there is somebody who said leadership is a declaration of love, which is with courage, and also it is delivered with care. So it is
Yes.
something which is speaking to the spirituality. And when we
Yes.
talk about shown with love, with courage, it's like you see there are things that you can assist other people to grow, but you understand it takes time for them to reach there. I want to go back to Faukia. Faukia, you have been an HR leader, and mostly you have worked in the service industry. You have multi-generational workforce, but also you are serving multi-generational customers, because I know the bankers, I mean, in the banking industry, the more the generation has advanced, the more they banked, the more they put aside something. And these you are saving, but you are having your staff also saving these multi-generational customers. How have you balanced that your internal stakeholders are aligned, but also they are able to serve the external stakeholders who are also multi-generational? Can you talk to us about it? And many organizations, they're like that. I see people from Precision Air, they are saving all of us. Sometimes we go to the air with people who are on stretchers. They are baby boomers almost phasing out like myself. But also we have very young with, they have the earphones, they are moving. So how do I prepare a workforce which is able to navigate these multi-generational customers? And please, audience, you can ask your questions too.
Very, very good question, Madam Zura, and I think it's a question as leaders we always, especially in the service industry, we always want to strike a balance between your internal stakeholder and your external stakeholder. And I think, as for example, I'll take back as an example of KCB, we have taken a deliberate journey 2 years ago in revamping our culture transformation journey. And that had looked at our central focus was people. Either you are internal or external, you're still a person. Because even me being an internal, there's certain standard or expectation of how I want to be served in the market. So if you look at our brand purpose, is for people for better, because we are here for the people. Our customer obsession is real. So then we have the front end soldiers, and then we have the back end. When we are saying customer obsession does not end from our external customers, but you also have to be customer obsessed with your internal customers. Like HR, I serve internal customers. Then how am I obsessed in offering employee experience? So, and these are things that we take very seriously. We look at organization health index in terms of how is the employee experience across internally. And then we have measures such as a net promoter score, customer effort to serve. We are also looking at external customers and what are their experience and why would the brand be a preferable brand. So when we are striking this balance, and if you look at our values in KCB, which have been renewed 2 years ago, is we're looking at how can we get closer? How are we connected? And how are we courageous enough? So when we're saying closer, do I go beyond banking to lifestyle? When I say I'm connected, where am I connected? Am I connected digitally? Am I connected to different industry to understand their perspective and how best can I integrate? And when I say we are courageous, then how do we change a status quo to be a better partner? And when we say better partner, it's not only looking at internal, we're looking at external. So now come back to multi-generational, looking at, yes, when we are doing this, I was part of that team. When we were looking at our culture and say that I think it's about time as a service industry, we need to stop looking inward and looking outward and have a combination of perspective. And this is how I would say we have been successful over this service industry is connecting both the outward and the inward together and merging the perspective and see how best. And we do a lot of self-assessment and saying, if I was a customer, what service would I expect? So being that obsessed about your customer is very important. And how long do you take to take response? How do you give feedback? The feedback, like you said, giving to Gen Z or to baby boomer is completely different. Madam, when you come to a branch, we are to serve you. We are not going to give you the same feedback or the speed that we've given Gen Z. So we tailor-made according to your requirement.
Yeah.
And that is monitored.
It's very interesting because when we asked what approaches the communication protocols where you involve multiple channels, what you are telling us, it is not only with your employees, but also you sort of like have some protocols that also address some of your customers who are also multi-generational. We have a question from the audience.
Yes.
And this question I want to send to Anthony, and the other one come to Faukia. How do you cope on heavy days where you have not been able to make a bridge? What scenarios comes to mind, and are these situations where it didn't work at all? And how did you cope in such scenarios? This is from Shim Asava.
Oh, great. Wow. All right. So I would presume that the bridge is within the context of the multi-generation space, right? It's obviously, that's why the phrase is heavy. It's not fun. And I don't think it's intended to be a fun process. And I think in my own personal experience, it's coming to a place to understand that one, that the pain or the heaviness is actually a good thing. It makes it's proof that you're alive and that you're learning and you're growing. Two, also that we're here on this planet to grow and to learn and to evolve. So it's not that personal. And three, perhaps I can share a personal experience for myself. Again, back to the same scenario of a family business environment where coming to a place where understanding a value that is important, that perhaps because of the exposure or my growth or my story had not been clear enough, it's a painful process. And whenever if I started to overthink it and personalize it, rather than asking myself the question, what is the takeaway from here? What is the other party trying to communicate? What value is important to them that perhaps I'm not appreciating or leaving out? Then that kind of calms down the conversation quite a bit. I can give another example where there's an assignment or a project we were doing, and it was a multi-generational team. We had a baby boomer, we had a Gen Xer, and I believe I'm a millennial. And there was an issue regarding to communication because I was told again and again to fix something. But then I was so focused on the IT, on making things look, sharp, rather than trying to understand that someone's form of communication is actually them giving you an instruction, them trying to help you to get to a point where you understand what they're trying to say. And so my response, or where I'm at now, I wouldn't want to take it personally. The minute I have understood that, okay, so this is what is happening, I would set standards so that it doesn't happen again, that you don't have to tell me twice. I don't want to feel like I have underperformed or I'm heavy or I didn't understand the assignment. Please, next time, speak to me plainly, directly, so that I know what is happening and I can show up. And I love what you said, so we can work well together and deliver results. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? All right.
So here we have some comments. We have someone from Zanzibar saying, very nice discussion. And also we have someone who have said from Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, Betha, this Zanzibar is Rajabu Weje, said it's a very nice conversation. And from Dar es Salaam, I think it's Betha Semu, who says, most interesting to hear about leadership being a declaration of love. Last time I checked, leadership was about power and control. So I want the people who are Genos certified here to think about that. This audience is saying it was power and control, but now you are hearing declaration of love, shown with courage, delivered with care. It's a new concept completely. So it is very interesting. Then we have a question which has been put forward here to Faukia. Could Faukia shed more light on how one can address cultural misunderstandings and negative stereotypes so as to help especially baby boomers cope with the pressure that comes with these challenges at a particular workplace? Baby boomers here, we are on the spotlight.
Wow. A good question. And in terms of culture misunderstanding, I think in stereotype, that one I can give. I think culture misunderstanding and stereotype comes in when we don't understand the value system. Each one of us has different value system. Like I said in my presentation, we've all gone through different social, different economical, and different culture shifts throughout our life, and that has shaped us, our experience, our perspective, and how we look at things. I think, for example, me being an Arab lady going to University College of Engineering, being only two ladies in my course of engineering, that was a culture shock for many. And I had to endure stereotyping because they had already bracketed me somewhere. So I would, so my coping mechanism actually on being stereotyping is like, it is their issue, not mine. I know my purpose. I know why I'm there and what I need to do to get to the next level. I think with that approach and that attitude at a very early on, I was very open to feedback, but then I also measure, is this feedback really about me or about them? So the self-regulation, the self-impact, and then you come to, as a general practitioner, really, it's very important to have reasoning perspective. When you're in a situation, what made them say that, and assess your own self-awareness and awareness of others, and then sometimes you have, like she said, power and control. Sometimes you have to control and say, how do you want to influence this situation, to what direction? And I think one of the best quality a leader can have is to be an influencer. If
Okay.
you have followers and you can't influence, you will not achieve a bigger picture of what your purpose is driving you or why you exist in that organization as a leader. So I don't believe in control or power, but I believe in influence and have my voice heard and give an opportunity to everybody, but yet focus on the shared goal and what is it that we want to achieve as an organization. That is my
question of
approach.
control and power, I wanted to ask you, since it
Oh,
is
I had to blend it in.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
because it has come from the audience. It's like,
Yes.
how are the HR leaders? I have a question from another person, but I'm going to ask this question so that both of you can think about them. Faukia, the first question is yours. How are the HR leaders grappling with the challenge of transforming or making leaders evolve from power and control to become much more of empowering and engaging leaders? What kind of programs can organization, take to help the leaders to make that evolution? Because the workplaces are evolving, times are changing, but the leadership style are not changing as fast as we would like to see. That is one question. Another question, which is building on Madam Betha's question, we have a question from Sophia Mwema. And I'm sorry, Shim Asiva is Sia Mariale from Standard Chartered. Here we have Sophia Mwema from Bank of Africa asking a question. Thank you so much for the great presentation, Faukia. How do I encourage a culture of mindfulness and reflection within my team? So I want Anton to talk about the second question and you to tell us, how are you transiting leadership from power and control to mindfulness, engaging, and empathetic leaders?
Wow.
Yes.
First and foremost, when you want to transform leadership, and when I talk about, let me talk about my self journey and then talk about the leadership team, because I'm also partly responsible to build capacity within the leadership team to transform them into where they are and where the market is evolving or the workforce is evolving, cross-functional, but also multi-generational. For myself, I think it's a personal decision to transform, and it's an intentional journey. I think of late we have seen everything is a deliberate effort that we put in and say who I am. I am very strong in self-awareness and awareness of others. Even if you don't speak, I can read from your body language and I can understand. I can understand your perspective, what you have agreed, what you have not agreed, and for what reasons. So I think power and control is a default mode of leaders. That's what I've said. People are comfortable being in a position of power and control because they think that being authoritative is what make your team deliver. I disagree.
Especially in the book where you have numbers and you have that target.
Yes. For me, transformative leadership is being in a position of influence. How can I empower you? How can I empower you, influence you, and you make sure you deliver? But also, I'm very sensitive with timelines. You shouldn't work under pressure if you do understand what is your purpose.
You go
And
back
when you have more time, exactly, when you have, Madam Zora, we can speak. If you don't have purpose as a leader, as an employee, then you're doomed. You don't have direction. Purpose gives you direction. And I'm not even talking about the purpose you have or the over faith level. No, I'm talking about why are you here? Why do you wake up in the morning and show up? So for me, I believe position of power and control is a default mode of leaders who do not want to be influential, who do not want to empower, who are not confident enough to think about how do I develop my team to take over my position in time. Those who have touched life, those who have touched lives, they know me. I will empower everybody who cross my path because I believe the collective strength is what gives the success in the organization, including the leadership team.
Okay, thank you. Now we have someone who has really put an icing on what you have said. Her name is, I don't know whether it's a man or a lady, Monde Lushako. Says leaders who have failed to accommodate diversity have been struggling in their team's productivity. So he or she is putting an icing on what you have said. Now, we have another comment here, but before we go to that comment, I would like to request you to talk very quickly. How do I encourage a culture of mindfulness and reflection within my team? This is from Sophia Mwema.
Balance of work-life balance. Work-life balance is very important. And when I say work-life balance, is not one of all of the other. It's all together. But then the mindfulness comes in. What support system do you have in place? And now how do you utilize? I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a sister. So I have so many hats. And how do I balance and still have self-renewed energy to continue? So mindfulness comes from that, but I'm very big in self-care. I like to take a break every now and then, either to go to nature or meditate or looking for things that motivate and renew energy. And as a leader, you really need to be sensitive on your emotional impact. When you're fatigued, the negative energy displays across your energy, your team. So mindfulness is to understand what your body is telling you, your impact on emotions, and then what is your environment radiate, and then how do you balance that?
Thank you very much for talking to us about balancing. And that is more about assisting leaders to know that they need to recover their energy after a day's work. They need to have a silent moment, whether it is mindfulness, where you sit and meditate, or they have to do some kind of other activities that rejuvenate and invigorate their mind so that they can be mindful when they are attending other people. Such kind of a culture has to be built intentionally, I think. And if it has to be built intentionally, it means it has to be the value of the leadership that you have in your bank. I think, Sophia, you have gotten a lot of meat from there. Now, there is something specifically addressed to Anthony, and this is from Sia. Anthony, the power and impact of faith, stroke spirituality, tends to be easily noted in the areas of attitudes, values, and perspective. How would you measure the impact of faith, stroke spirituality in the area of communication styles and expectations in the process of addressing multi-generational workplace challenges, workforce challenges? And then Dorina Kilama is saying, great insights, pause, reflect, and lead. Going back to Madame Faukia. Okay, you have a loaded statement from Sia Madiale.
I will do my best here. All right, so how would you measure the impact of faith or spirituality in the area of communication styles? I think I'll cut it there for a second and just address that. Actually, if you'll allow me, Mama, I'll just step back to that mindfulness in a team setting. The question from before, in that my quick take there is that you can only lead as you are led. I think that's something that I've personally come to learn, that if you are not sober, aka not mindful, or your mind is full, then it's very hard to create a culture. It just doesn't work. And it might be flawed, because then even an influence can be control. And that's why I love that statement about love. To come back to Sia's question, thank you for that. How would you measure it? I mean, what I love about this life, or this thing called life, is that we'll continue to grow until we die. So that's the whole point of spiritual growth. So even something as, for example, how am I communicating authentically? You will continue to grow in understanding how you communicate authentically, because with different settings, with different issues, you come to realize that, oh, I'm biased in this thing, or I have an agenda, or perhaps I was not as aware of myself or of others in this scenario, so that how I'm showing up wasn't necessarily authentic yesterday, but today I'm able to do a better job. I call it, you can do things better or differently every single day. So the assessment goes back, that's why I even talked about you can only lead as you are led, because if you don't have, to use the word mchungaji, a shepherd, you don't have a mentor, you don't have a coach, you don't have someone that is actually walking this life with you, an accountability partner, you can do the self-assessment, but it's a lot easier if you're walking this life with someone else. In terms of communication styles, do we still have time?
Yeah, we still have time. How do you pick it in the communication style of a leader when you are talking about the balance of faith and spirituality? Because here we are not talking about a particular religion, we are talking about spirituality. And the way we define spirituality, it is the connection you have with your own maker, and how do you bring it out, demonstrate it in your leadership. And we know when we talk about emotional intelligence, we are talking about awareness of others. And also we know in the most of the faith we come from, they say, do to unto others the way you want them to, you want it to be done to you. So
Yes.
is there the connection between the emotional intelligence and the spirituality you're talking about? And how do we sort of like assist leaders? And
Yes.
when at what should leaders do more in the poll, there was a question, there was a choice where you say, listen more attentively and respond effectively. Is this also talking about the spirituality angle, and how do we now prepare leaders, especially for the service industries where industry where care is and other industry, them to be able to espouse all these values?
Okay.
It's a big one, but I think
I can take a crack at it. So I am listening to understand, and I'm responding as follows. So my thoughts are that the easiest way is that you would actually measure it by from externally, from other people. So I can speak on my own journey that the communication, you don't see the chair moving, but the chair moves, if that makes sense. So how you speak to people, if it was quick to anger, you find yourself not as quick to anger. So even the teams that are around you and your employees, they will start noticing it. If I can use you as an example, Mom, I remember there's a story that you shared where after doing an assessment, you and getting feedback from others. I think this at the VUSI event, where you mentioned that it's when you get feedback from others and you take that on board, that you are able to now have that awareness and now leave it out, right? And then that the people that are around you are the ones that are going to be impacted and will notice that there is now a change in your approach, in how you handle them, in how you communicate. So the communication styles can be as much as the speed of how you speak, your choice of words, because it has impacted your awareness so deeply that there's just words or how you approach people. I love the example that I heard where huiti watu madogo. You just don't call people you young man, because there's a ranking, there's a place where you're like, I am here and you're here, that goes away because you're now seeing them as a human being.
Thank you very much. And there is an icing to the cake that you have just shared with us. And this icing is coming from Zakianisi Saronga. I hope I've pronounced it well. Take out from mindfulness and spirituality. You cannot pour from an empty glass. And I think she is a she. She has given us a very good dimension. You cannot give what you don't have. You cannot pour from a depth which you don't have anything from there. So what she's telling us as leaders, we need to be full in terms of positivity, mindfulness before we can pour it out, which is very good. And another take from it is raise your words, not your voice, which again is about communication style. And what we are taught by Rumi, philosopher, when you raise your words, you are more careful in choosing the words that you are going to use rather than shouting. Then we have another comment here from Margaret Malifunya. How can leaders reduce biases in reference to multigenerational expected mentioned behaviors, as there is growth and maybe Gen Z can be like millennia and vice versa? And then we have, thank you for the learning a lot. Now, these ones I want you to wrap, because what we have had as a discussion as we are moving to our top of the hour, very powerful discussion around the balancing of the logic and the emotion, the balancing of being mindful, listening carefully, and whatever. Then the importance of communication, especially when you have multi-generational workforce. We have talked about also the people we are serving as customers are also multi-generational, and how we are going to approach them. We are talking about a number of skills that can assist us. We have brought in the emotional intelligence, faith, and spirituality. We have brought in also the issues about being yourself, well taken care of in terms of self-care and being full for you to be able to give what is overflowing from you and become more intentional in your leadership. A lot of discussion has taken place here. Now, I want to welcome you, Anthony, to give us your closing statement for the audience to part with. What do you want this audience to go with? And if you can use about 1 minute to give us the last big thought that you want the audience to go with.
All right. Thank you, Mama. So my knockout or my parting shot to all my brothers and sisters in the participants is that how do we translate knowledge into wisdom? So a lot has been shared. There might be something that has touched you or an understanding that has come into the room. Like I said, for me, the Genos journey, the emotional intelligence journey, the spiritual growth journey, it has been fruitful. It's not easy because it requires an inward, perspective. It requires even taking feedback from the outside, but it's worth it. And an assessment, especially something that where you're asking feedback from people from different areas of your work history. For example, the 360 assessment can be quite helpful in essentially understanding how are we showing up and getting those real, authentic opinions from the different generations, how they are perceiving you, how you're showing up, can be quite transformative in your journey. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And there is Gianansia is saying, I like that, Anthony. When you are a leader and you are confident of your position and ability to lead, meaning that you own the seat. You are not an imposter. You don't have imposter syndrome. You tend not to throw around derogative terminologies that remind people of their ages, position, etc. Like calling people, you dogo is a full engineer registered, you call that person, you dogo, njoo hapa. It is not good. Position, etc. Providing a psychological safe working environment for all generations. Wow, what a beautiful icing. Now I come to you, Madam, for your final thoughts.
Wow, the last participant just killed it, and she actually saw my key takeaway for this program. So I think it was very thank you, audience, for taking the time and join us this very insightful and engaging session. There's a lot of learning also I'm taking away to go for self-reflection and see how best we can continue to reflect, pause, and lead. But my key takeaway for this session is saying, what should leaders do to maximize the strength of multi-generational workforce or the diversity of the team? Basically are 5. Creating meaningful connection with each generation, create psychological safety for people to be able to open up and express themselves, demonstrate authenticity in communication and action, walk the walk, demonstrate intellectual humility, and lastly, listen attentively, respond effectively.
Thank you very much. That is a very powerful close. And again, it has a very beautiful icing from Dr. Alfred Sebahene. And he's all the way from the St. John's University in Dodoma. He said a word of appreciation. Thank you very much for this amazing webinar. Thank you, speakers and the moderator. I'm encouraged to learn about significant benefits of multi-generational workforce, such as multiple perspective, problem-solving abilities, learning, stroke mentoring opportunities, knowledge transfer and retention, unique relationships that exist in the workplace. Good that it is not only about challenges, but opportunities as well, Alfred Sebahene. So I wanted to thank the audience so much, but before they leave, I want to talk a bit about the courtesy of Genos Emotional Intelligence, Genos International. We are bringing these free webinars to Africa and the region because we are distributors and partners of Genos. And the journals is all about structured approach into assisting leaders gain essential knowledge that will transform leaders from power and control to more engaging, mindful people. That declaration of love to happen so that we can engage all the generations in our place. We can avoid stereotyping and other things. And to enable the region to become more agile in terms of emotional intelligence, we have certification program that is happening in Dar es Salaam between 7th and 9th of October. And being certified as emotional intelligence practitioner, you are able to use these tools to assist organizations to be better in terms of the leadership they provide. But again, it opens you to a large access of research, including Genos University, where you can get training material to assist the teams, to assist organizations to mold their culture and become better in terms of managing multi-generational workforces in their places. We can be reached, as you can see, we are very much in the social media. We are also having our website and our digital platforms where you can check in. And I would like to invite you to become more curious about investigating about this emotional intelligence thing, because it is part of our culture. If you look in Kiswahili, we have a methali, or we call it a saying, which says, heri kujikwaa kidole kuliko kujikwaa ulimi. It is all about emotional intelligence. Yeah, it's better to stumble on your toe rather than to stumble on your tongue. And all these are talking about how important to manage relationship. And when we are talking about communication protocols, when we are talking about making sure that we are communicating in a way that we are reaching all the generation, we are taking care of the emotions and perspective of all generation. It means we have to raise the texture of our thinking, the texture of our communication to a level that we're able to talk to these different generations without causing any conflict within our workplace. So thank you very much for joining this learning forum. And I believe with this kind of free webinars, East Africa will be discussing all these things. I want to end this webinar by reading a few of the comments. Here we have Anna Molele saying, wow. Then Sposiosa Roemam saying, thank you for the nice webinar. As a millennial group leader working with multi-generational team, this has given me insight on a lot of areas. Then here we have a posting of the Genos certification program that we are going to have in Tanzania. And this is the first time that Tanzania is running a face-to-face certification program. We have brought it into Dar es Salaam so that you can join us in your numbers. We start this conversation in our schools. We start this conversation in our churches, in our mosque, in our vikoba, our families, because also we know there are families that face challenges, especially when it comes into interpersonal communication. So this is a skill which has been there since ancient times. Even the prophets have used these skills to really move nations and to make a difference. So if you look at mindfulness that we've been talking about, and you talk of Jesus Christ, practiced it quite a lot. If you talk of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them, he practiced mindfulness, and that's why they have remained iconic in the history of humanity. So thank you very much, the audience, for joining us. Daniel says, interesting section, bravo, bravo session, bravo, bravo. And then Sia says, how to access the details of the training. We have posted, here you have, if you look at the chat box, you can download. If you download, you will be able to see what I've been talking about, the Genos Emotional Intelligence Certification, which is happening in Dar es Salaam. I can request Marvin. Marvin, can you Can you show it on the screen, please, before we leave? As the audience is walking out, Fauke, you can stop sharing, or you can share your slides, because we had the poster there. People can take the QR code. Fauke, are you still able to share the slides?
Yes, 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 I can still share.
Okay, can you share so that we can have the QR code on the poster, please?
Okay.
So anyone who is interested, you can go to the end of the slides where we have
This
the,
one?
no, down
Okay.
to the end.
Yeah.
Yes, that one. Can you enlarge it, please? So the
Yes,
audience, if you want to know more about the program which we are going to run in Tanzania, you can zoom the QR code and you'll be able to access all the details that we have for this particular program. The program is going to happen at Mbezi Beach at Oasis Club. There we have also accommodation facilities for people who are coming from outside Dar es Salaam or outside Tanzania. This program is open for East African. You are all welcome. Please share as much as possible with your network so that we can really make a change in this part of the world in terms of how we are raising our children, how we are training our children, how we are taking the responsibility of parenting, responsibility of education, responsibility of leading, plus. Thank you very much, and thank you so much for being with us. 1.5 hours of powerful learning and exchange of ideas. As Anthony said, wisdom. You cannot get wisdom from any university. You don't have a PhD of wisdom or bachelor's of wisdom or master's of wisdom, or a diploma of wisdom. So the wisdom only comes from mindfulness and ability to have a quality time of re-energizing. Thank you very much for joining us. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely fantastic session from Christian. Thank you so much, panelists. I'm giving you your flowers.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mama.
Yeah, people are leaving the room,
Yes.
throwing flowers to you. God bless you always. Excellent, you've been blessed. Okay. This is beautiful from Victor, all the way from, wow, Nigeria. Wow, that's good. Okay, a few people I know. So thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Good
Hi,
night.
you were there.
Yes, I was here, but I was in and out sometimes because we have an event on Friday that is driving us crazy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's
but I was here.
interesting. There was no much Kiswahili today.
No, imagine that.
I would like to thank you, Faukia, Anthony, and the rest of the back office team, the marketing people who have put the poster out, and everybody who has made this happen. The first one to be run all the way from Tanzania. And thank you very much for making me so proud. Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you.
We'll keep doing
Thank you
them.
for a vote of confidence to have this